Hey, this is Joel Bosch with Bosch Homes, and you're listening to the Builder Sessions.
Welcome to the Builder Sessions, a podcast where we chat with your favorite builders.
We get to know them, their stories, and hopefully inspire you to get off the couch and build something cool. I'm Hoff.
And I'm Rosie, and on this episode, we have Joel Bosch with Bosch Homes.
We talk about finding your own way in the industry, net zero building, and he offers some great advice for people starting out.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy our interview with Joel. Joel, thanks for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
So for those of our listeners who don't know you and like a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into your background. So just tell us a bit about yourself, what you're doing now, and yeah.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Joel Bosch. I was born and raised here in Medicine Hat, and I am a husband, a father of 4. We have 3 boys and a girl under the age of 10. So that keeps us busy.
It's busy,
but yeah, and that, and we have a home building business here. It was family business that my dad actually started in 1982, and we took it over about 5 or 6 years ago. And yeah, I've kind of been in construction my whole life. Like right out of high school, it was kind of the first thing I did out of high school, and been doing it ever since. So
that's cool. So like, was it just the family? Was it just your dad and like him starting the business? Is that kind of, I mean, you live and breathe it. I remember, for those of you who don't know, I kind of grew up with Joel. We've been friends since like grade 4, probably grade 3, maybe. I don't know. But
yeah,
just knowing you and knowing the background, was there anything other than this, construction in your blood that inspired you to pursue it? Was there anything other than that, or was it just that it was just what we did as a family kind of thing?
No. Yeah, it's actually kind of a funny story I've told people a few times, but like I remember growing up, like, yeah, my dad working and, the odd time being on job sites. Really more so like in junior high and high school. I think I remember some summers I go and work with him, and by work I mean he'd have me sweep floors and shovel gravel or something like that. But yeah, the funny thing is I didn't like it. It was, people would ask me like, are you going to be a carpenter or, build homes like your dad? And it was like, hell no. Like it was the last thing I thought I'd end up doing, right? So I don't know if it was just, that thing of, sometimes working for your dad or your parents, it's kind of like there's, you butt heads a little bit, but
yeah,
no, it wasn't something I thought I was going to do. I was honestly pretty close to like getting into like physiotherapy and stuff when I was thinking about that when I was graduating high school. But no, I took a summer job at a high school that my dad actually got for me, working for someone else in town here, and I fell in love with it. Like the first summer out of high school, I started on a framing crew, working outside, working with my hands, building stuff. And it was just like, this is awesome. Like I just fell in love with it. And I know my dad always told me like, or he could see the natural ability, like, in carpentry and, working with your hands. Like he always told me I had that natural ability, but I didn't really pay any attention to it or notice it until that summer when I was working. And yeah, I think it helps. I think I got lucky. I worked with a couple of guys that were just a lot of fun. They made it fun. They were great teachers. They taught me a lot. And I just kind of took it and ran with it. And yeah, and I'm so glad I took that as a summer job. It was just going to be a summer job. I was thinking I'm going to go work outside and get a tan.
Yeah.
And then go find something else to do. But I got hooked.
That's awesome.
Crazy how quickly sometimes that you get that little glimpse of, I want to try something. I'm not really like I'm maybe interested in it. Like you said, I want to be outside, and then all of a sudden you start building, And I think there's a lot of people, once you start building with your hands and making stuff and seeing that after a day's work or even a couple hours, there's a product, whether it's, you know, a set of stairs or a wall going up, there's something to be said about that gratification of, I just made that. And it could be a couple hours, it could be a day, or spread out over the project. And I think that speaks volumes on, for me too, it makes me excited to be able to stand back and say, oh, look what I did in a short amount of time. And there's that kind of that gratification from it.
Yeah, and we would always do that. Like I remember at the end of the days, like when we were framing houses, at the end of the day, like you'd wrap up tools, and then as you're walking to your truck, you walk out onto the street, you turn around, you look back, right? And you're like, yeah, like that's what we did today. Like it, yeah, and it feels good, and it motivates you, right, to keep going and wanting to learn. Yeah.
Was it because yeah, I'm sure just knowing the type of guy your dad is, he probably was like, oh wow, like good job, you know, like just seeing these things in you, like you mentioned. But was it as soon as someone else outside your home said it, then you're like, oh, maybe there's something to this? Or was it just like, oh, that's just my dad, he's just talking, whatever?
Yeah, I think maybe. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
normal, but it's like,
Oh,
you
I
know,
think it's totally normal.
My parents are very encouraging, right? Like,
Mm.
and I, you know, sometimes I think you maybe wonder, like, are they just telling me this just to be nice, you know, just because they're my parents? Maybe that's part of it, right? But then to get that feedback from other people, and then to see it, like, yeah, I actually am good at this, you know, and
Yeah.
and then you, okay, now I really do believe what he was telling me. He wasn't just, you know,
Yeah, it
feeding me
wasn't just,
this
oh, that's such a great,
lie.
what is it? What's that project you made? Is that a basketball? No, it's a picture of you, Dad. You know, it's like,
Let's be honest, we all have those projects from shop class in high school where
Yeah.
your parents are like, what was this? And you're so proud of it.
yeah, or
You're
even
like,
kids bring it home from daycare. Oh, that's so cool. What is it? You know, we don't know. But yeah,
So after that summer job, then did you go, what happened after that? Kind of once that sparked your interest, did you start your apprenticeship, or how did that kind of play out?
Yeah, so I think I did. Yeah, I started my apprenticeship pretty quickly. Like, I don't know if it was that next fall, but yeah, I started apprenticing right away. I took my first 2 years at the college here in Medicine Hat, and then my third and fourth year, I finished up in Edmonton at Nate. I lived up there for about 2 years and worked up there as well. So yeah, then I finished my apprenticeship up in Nate, and then moved back to Medicine Hat. I think it was around 2006 or 2007, and that's when I joined in the family business with my dad. And he was excited to have me back in Medicine Hat and in the family business. So yeah.
that's cool. So then, okay, so you're helping out, you kind of take over, and now there's like this whole new. I feel like you've totally. I don't want to use that term rebranded, but you're innovating and you're getting into this, you know, net zero space, and you're doing a lot of cool things that maybe not a lot of people are. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit. So first of all, for those people like myself who have no clue, I kind of have an idea of what net zero is. Mind explaining that and kind of how you got into that as far as building goes?
Yeah, sure. So net zero is a home that produces as much energy as it consumes over the course of a year. And so I feel like I was probably even kind of late to the party on that. Like I remember it was in a meeting with a few other industry kind of leaders and people in our community. And when I first heard about it, I just heard about the idea of, oh yeah, like, you know, building a house that can produce as much energy as it consumes. And it just like, you know, my ears just perked up, and it's just like, what is this? Like, I want to learn more about this. Like, this sounds awesome. So, and I think that's kind of always been the way my brain works. Like I always, you know, even when we were just framing and building, like, and I think, I don't even know if I can take credit for that. I think that was something that, you know, people I worked with taught me. A part of that was just always, we're always looking for a better way to do things, right? Like even if we built the exact same house like 3 or 4 times, every time we were trying to make it a little better, right? Or find better ways to improve on it. So yeah, when I heard about it, it just kind of intrigued me and excited me. So I found they were doing like a 3-day course. I think it was up in Edmonton, to kind of specialize in this or just to learn more about it. So I signed up and I went up there, and after the 3 days, I was even more excited. We learned, yeah, they had like 2 days, I think, in the classroom, just kind of teaching all about like, how it actually works. Like, what does it take to get to net zero, all the things you have to do. And then the third day was a walk through some job sites of a few builders up there that were doing it. So yeah, I just remember like at first it kind of sounded like really intimidating and like almost impossible, right? Like, and that's what I wanted to learn more about it, because I'm like, there's no way you can, build a house that produces as much energy as it consumes. And then, once I really started learning more about it, I'm like, no, this is absolutely possible, and especially, I mean, down in southern Alberta, like we get a ton of sun, and it's like, yeah, this is doable. And then that's kind of when I just started, like, over the course of a couple of years, sort of started playing with plans and ideas, and reaching out to people that had done it before, learning just more about a few different building systems that are kind of unique to make it happen. And yeah, we just kind of really started diving into the what do you call it, just the guts of it and what makes it work. So yeah, so we I guess that was 2019 that we built this house here in Medicine Hat that produces as much energy as it consumes. Kind of some of the details about it is, so first of all, like this home, the amount of energy it needs for heating and cooling is reduced by about, I think, 65%. So the kind of the first step was really like insulating the home extremely well. And then once you've done that, you can use different heating and cooling systems to heat and cool the home, because you don't need nearly as much energy to heat and cool it. So
that's interesting. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's
like building a foundation so that you don't have to like buy a workhorse to like make up for the inefficiency of like the crappy insulation. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is geothermal tied to net zero at all, or is that?
Yeah, I think you can use geothermal. I've seen a few projects where that's what they've done. I think there's pros and cons. Definitely in city limits, when your space is limited, I think it's a little more difficult. I've seen it done on a few bigger projects. Our system is mostly designed around air source heat pumps. Okay. So our heating and cooling and even our hot water is done with an air source heat pump. And there's lots of hybrid units, right? Like electric and air source. And then also we have a 9.86 kilowatt solar array on our roof. So
nice.
Did that take quite a while to get to that? Like from your initial, I'm going to go and take these classes or little conference about net zero. Like it doesn't just happen overnight. Was there how long did it take to kind of develop this and collaborate and chat and kind of get educated about it to now we're actually going to be able to incorporate this into our house plans?
Yeah, like I said, I think it was a couple of years after that. I think I was convinced. I feel like a lot of it was convincing some people around me, like this is what we're gonna do,
Get everybody on board.
So did you have to build like a spec home because you're obviously sounding like you're comfortable with taking that risk? The first home that you built, was it like a build with Bosch like spec home, or was it a customer's home, or was it yours? You know what I mean?
Well, it was a spec home, yeah. Like we had it in the Prada Homes here.
Oh, okay, cool.
2019, that was the net zero home we did. Yeah, and that's the only one we've done, was just that one. And we live in it now. Like we built it as a spec and as our show home. And then, I mean, it was for sale if anyone, for the right price. But then we felt it was important to live in it, right? Because to really understand how these homes work, you need to live in it, and you need to go through the you know, the winters and the summers and see how it performs. Because then, you know, if you're going to build another one, there's always going to be, like I said, always kind of tweaking things and making them better. So it's been cool to kind of be in here and kind of watch how it performs, and, you know, each year, and kind of see what I would do differently next time. But overall, it's performed really well, and there isn't too much I would change.
Probably good for potential customers too to have you have some backup knowledge of how it is living in a home, because it's one thing to say, oh, we build net zero, but for you to actually live in it, and like you were saying, just engulfed with it, right? You know, okay, we might change this, or your heating and cooling is reduced by 60%, and like having that data for customers would be, if I was a customer, I would almost prefer that, to be able to have a builder say, well, I actually live in one, and these are instances that are come on over, like kind of show them and have that knowledge of what net zero can do and how it kind of saves money. And there might be a bigger cost to build it, but in the long run, kind of having that self-sufficient home in there.
Yeah, and for the most part, like, it's, you know, and one of the things I wanted to demonstrate too is, like, it's just like a regular home, you know, like there's not much different, even like the way it looks, you know, it looks like a normal home. Like, it's most things about it, like, you wouldn't really even know the difference. Also, that being said, I do think that, you know, living in these more energy efficient homes, airtight homes, like, there is a level of knowledge and education that does come along with it, right? Like you said, there's a few things you kind of do need to know and monitor, and just be aware of how, like, the fresh air, you know, coming into your home, how that works, things like that, right? Like, so it's pretty hands off. Like, it's not like there's a bunch of work and things you have to do to keep it sustainable, but also it's important to know kind of the basics of how things work, and, you know, how to live in it.
Exactly. I could just imagine you in like in a potential, like, in, I don't want to say a sales meeting, but like with a potential customer, and just being like, here's my power bills, you know, like, this is firsthand experience. Here's my power bills. My claims are true. This is what I spent last year, and this is what I spent in my previous home. You know, that type of thing. That'd be such a, you did it smart. That's really cool to see. I like it.
Yeah, and it is cool, especially, like, you know, it seems like, yeah, it's getting more and more expensive just to heat and cool our homes, and, you know, electricity and price of electricity and natural gas, and it's trending that way, that it's seeming more and more valuable, you know. But I do think it's funny. I've joked to a few people about it. It's like, we built this net zero home that's, like, extremely airtight, and, you know, like, doesn't take much to heat and cool it, and then we have 4 kids that live in here that leave the doors open all the time, and, you know, it's like -30 outside and the front doors are wide open, and I'm like, it seems kind of silly.
That's not working now.
Maybe I won't show you my heating bills. Yeah. So
that's another thing too, because I think when they, like, when they model these homes, like, and to model a home for net zero, I think they kind of take an average, or they base them off, like, I think it's assuming that 3 people live in the home, right? Like a family of 3. That's kind of how they model them. So for us, there's 6 of us living in here, right? You know, and it still performed pretty well. I think we didn't technically reach net zero. Like, I think in 2021, our total usage from January 1st to January 1st was, I think it was 1 gigajoule of energy. So, like, 275 kilowatt hours is what our house actually used over the whole year. So we were, like, not quite zero.
pretty darn
But,
Still
like,
impressive.
there's 6 of us living in here. Like, our washer and dryer probably run
Yeah.
5 times more than the average family, right? So I
Wow,
was
that's cool.
actually quite impressed at how well it performed, given our usage of the home anyway.
That's sweet. And it's only going to go up as, you know, they get older and they have devices, and, you know, like, that's a lot
Almost
of
a
usage.
true testament to the net zero, having a big, larger family with, like you're saying, doors left open, and
Yeah.
you know, different things going on, washer, dryer, probably showers, tubs going longer, and now you're like, that's pretty minimal.
Everyone goes off to
energy
school.
consumption.
Everyone goes off to school, and every light in the house is on. Or is that just my house? I don't know. Maybe it's just mine.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of it too.
Oh
Like I think
yeah,
the first year we lived in it, we were very conscious of, like not having long showers and, trying to, run things during the day when the sun's up. But I don't know, now, like I'll, I'll take long showers. We kind of have dropped the ball a little bit, but I mean, that's how you live, right?
that's
It's
life.
like,
Yeah,
it's supposed to be able to work with a, normal lifestyle. It's not like you have to tiptoe around or
yeah,
only have showers and run appliances during the day and you're not allowed to do anything at night. It's like that's
yeah.
not what people want in the
Have a
house.
tub full of water, like back in the way back in the day, where everyone had to just share the tub of water.
Skim it out before
Yeah,
the
just
next
skim it
person.
out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sponge
yeah.
baths. So all that being said, Joel, in your position in the industry where you're at, where do you see the industry being? Or like, is it kind of slow to take off this net zero not concept, but the net zero way of building a home? Has that been kind of slow to take off, or are people still kind of skeptical, or is it kind of blowing up? Like, where do you see it going?
I think it's pretty slow. I think it really depends. Like I had a lot of people that were just like in love with the idea. When we had our show home, we had a lot of people come through and it was probably 50-50. Like lots of people absolutely loved it, wanted to learn more about it. And then I feel like the other half didn't really care,
Yeah.
So, um, and also we did have lots of people that really liked the idea, but then, when they see the cost to do, the upgrades, to add insulation and to, upgrade your windows and put solar, the price tag was still a little high, and they didn't see enough value in it to really pursue it. And I mean that's kind of the industry on a whole, right? Its costs are just getting higher and higher every year. So I think people do see value in it, but it's expensive to build these days, and to build a new home, it's not cheap. So I think it's getting there. I don't know if it's now that they want like net zero by 2050, like every home to be net zero by 2050. I could be wrong on that. I think it originally was like a 2030 goal that the industry had, but it's a little aggressive. Um, but yeah, I think it's going in that direction. But how long it's going to take, I don't know. But I think, even with like solar systems and solar panels and stuff, like it's getting more cost effective to do these things, right? Every year it's getting a little more cost effective. So it'll get there. I'm not good at predicting things. Every time I think I know what's coming next, I'm usually wrong. So I've learned that for sure.
So with net zero, in the long run, those obviously the savings and stuff is the long run. So maybe customers maybe don't necessarily, they just see the price point now of, oh wow, that's expensive, but then they don't see the future savings or the potential. Is there a big increase to build a proper net zero home based off of just a regular non-net zero home, I guess?
Yeah, I think our house, it was about, make sure I got this right. I think it was about like 10%, maybe not quite, was like the added cost to get to net zero. And we did have access to some rebates, like both through like local and provincially. So I think it was probably down to like 6.5% after those rebates. So yeah, that definitely helps. But I think a big part of that is like our generation, and I'm guilty of it too, is it's like, we don't live in homes that long. Like you think of our
Yeah.
parents that like, they live in a house and they live there like their whole lives. They've been there like 40 years. So it's like, putting an investment in a house, in a property that you're going to be your whole life, like you can see the value in it, right? Because it's going to pay itself off over the long term. But I feel like it's just kind of a result of our generation. I feel like we buy a house and we kind of like, well, I'm going to flip it, I'm going to sell it in 3 years. So like, I'm not going to see the value out of that solar system or that, those
Yeah.
energy efficiencies. So it's like, why bother? But
Yeah.
if you see it as like a long-term investment, then absolutely it's worth it. So I think it just kind of depends on.
Even as a selling feature too, I think that would be like if I was looking at a couple different homes. My mom has geothermal here in Lethbridge, and looking at her utilities, it's like, holy cow. Now, smaller lots, like you were saying, it might not be as beneficial, but if I'm looking at a couple different houses and there's one that's net zero, I'm probably going to jump on that one as a buyer, just with the, the future savings and just having that platform. With that being said, can you retrofit older homes into net zero? Or is it a little bit trickier because of the structural part and mechanical?
Yeah, I think it's trickier because it's a big element of that is, like the building envelope, like, how sealed up the home is. And that's definitely an obstacle in some older houses. I think that is a very important direction that the industry needs to go, because we can't just be focusing on, making new homes perfect and energy efficient. And then we have like, millions of homes on the market that are, old and leaky and, hogging up energy, and we're not worried about those. It's like, no, we need to find ways to make them more energy efficient, and maybe net zero, maybe not. Maybe we just need to improve them, right? Make them more energy efficient. So I think that is a big focus. It's just, it's not simple. There's no simple solution to it, right? I think every home is unique and different, and there's going to be different challenges to upgrading some older homes for sure.
That might be like a legislative piece. Like if you're talking about, getting net zero by a certain date, does that just include all new homes, or should there be incentives for current homeowners to dive into that, like rebates or some sort of legislation, like, I don't know, just to kind of motivate people, right? I mean, it would be a big, if they're in their forever homes, I hate that term, but it's common. If you're in your forever home, and it was built in 1970, you think you might want to invest a little bit in that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, no, sorry, but that, that light coming from the bottom of your door, that's not a feature. That's actually, that's why your furnace is running all day in the winter, like, I don't know. Just a thought.
And all those cold floors that you walk on every day, and
yeah. Just wakes me up.
Well, I even know our last house that we lived in was an older house too, and that was one thing that always drove me crazy, was like the freezing cold floors. And even one thing that I always forget about is like bugs. Like we had an older house, there was like ants getting in, and you'd see like spiders, and that's one thing in this house. It's like no, there's nowhere for them to get in.
Just Fort Knox over there.
Yeah.
Eh?
Well, in the older homes, there's the 2-inch crack in the basement foundation, and there's rodents, rats, or like everything's coming in.
It's a petting zoo. It's a petting zoo. Hey. So Joel, now is there anything like where do you see the interview? Wow. Where do you see the industry right now? Like, how is the industry post-COVID? Is everything kind of like we talked about how everything's it's expensive to build, and because of that, are you pivoting? Is there anything that you'd like to dabble in next, like kind of similar to net zero, or are there any new technologies you'd like to learn more about or to get into to kind of diversify what you guys can do to kind of make up for the downturn in the economy and the costs of building right now?
Nothing like completely different or nothing really new. I think I still like, focusing on energy efficiency. I think my mindset over the last few years has shifted more just to, like, I like the idea of, small efficient homes, it's like, and not having that wasted space, and really, I just see a lot of value in, like we have a family of 6, but it's like, we don't need a massive house to live in. So that's just something that I think is, inevitable, that like, we need to design homes that are more efficient and just, just without any wasted space, and, I just think that's important. So, I mean, that's kind of just where my mind's at. I like the idea of focusing on that and designing energy efficient homes, and kind of just see where that goes. I mean, I don't think everyone shares that same view as I do. And, see a lot of people that, build homes that are, have 10 bedrooms and there's only 2 of them that live in the home. But I mean, that's fine too. But, that's not kind of really where my mindset's at.
I think that's really respectable, if I'm honest, because like we're building out and we're gonna run out of space. Well, like I mean, don't mean to be like the sky is falling, but I'm just saying like some of that, like you said, wasted space isn't necessarily necessary, and I think that's really commendable that's and you're modeling that in how you're living too. It's really cool. Efficient use of space and energy. It's pretty neat. So, kudos to you, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, and I have noticed that even like, parallels in my life where it's like, yeah, just that need, even personally, for like more sustainable, a more sustainable life, right? It's like everywhere in my life. It's like, not just like in my home, like where else in my life am I wasting energy, and,
Yeah.
have things that I don't need. So it's like, and I mean, maybe that's a product of just, being a parent and having kids. You kind of like reprioritize your day and your life, right? And focus on the important things and cut out the wasted energy and wasted time and energy. So I think it's just kind of a product of maybe getting a little bit older. We're getting older, Lance. So.
Older and wiser.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Let's go with that, eh? Yeah. Wiser.
Have you with the industry in the last couple of years? Is it kind of on the rebound of picking up again, or is it kind of? I mean, I guess in Lethbridge here, it didn't seem to really slow down. House prices went through the roof, but where you're from, is the industry still stable? Is it like what's it doing right now?
Yeah, it's still pretty busy. I mean, it kind of comes and goes in waves, but I mean, for the most part, it's busy, and I don't know what's going to happen. I kind of thought, when COVID came around, I'm like, oh man, it's going to die, and things are going to just slow right down. And maybe I'm sure lots of people did, right? But it's only picked up, and it's, gotten busier and busier, and yeah, it's hard to know what's going to happen next, but yeah, it's been busy here too. And I don't know if like, Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, like smaller towns, if we've been affected less by it. But I guess because housing is more affordable here and maybe Lethbridge than, some of the bigger centers. So I think that helps us, or that plays to our advantage still. But yeah, it's been busy.
That's good. So I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. Okay, so if money was no object, hey, what would and we'll keep it within your realm of expertise. But if you want to go to like automotive or whatever, that's fine. But when I say the word dream build, what does that mean to you? What would be your dream? Whether that's a house with, outfitted with X, Y, and Z. Money's no object. What would you do? What would you build?
Oh,
I know.
That's
hey,
a tough one.
On the spot.
On the spot.
Yeah, and that's probably one that's definitely changed for me too. Like you asked me 10 years ago, I'd probably be building like a big mansion somewhere, and I don't know where, but I think it would probably be like, I'm not someone that wants to like really like live off the grid either, but it would probably be like a cabin in the mountains somewhere, right? Like I said, and not like a huge shack, but just like, something out in the mountains where we got a lake by us and we can take the kids out boating and stuff. And I'd have my cyber truck parked in the driveway there. And
Of course. Naturally. I'd drive
yeah,
that.
but I don't think anything crazy, but yeah, that's a good question. I'll have to think about that more. But yeah, it'd probably be something out in the mountains because, our kids like camping and stuff too. So there's lots of things just to get us outdoors. And
Yeah.
Mm,
What would
yeah.
that cabin have, like, outfitted? So you'd obviously have solar. You'd get it net zero, I'm sure. But like, what else do you think you'd add on if money was no? Would you have like the Tesla pack hanging in the garage, or would you?
Oh, probably, yeah. Um, yeah, the Tesla Powerwall,
Yeah.
solar panels, yeah, some big windows overlooking the lake.
Would there be a big shop on the property?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I don't even know what it's like to have a shop at my house, but yeah, nice shop I can play it. Yeah, and see, um, I'm not a mechanics guy for sure either. So I
Well,
can't
you
even
have
say I'd
a
have a shop where I'd rebuild vehicles or anything, because that would be the last thing I'd.
you'd have a wood shop though, right?
Right.
Be like Nick Offerman and build canoes on your spare time or something.
Take them down to the lake. Hey?
Yeah. Hey, we're just writing this story for you.
Absolutely,
Have
yeah.
some
There's gonna be a
have a windmill out there. Hey, have some sort of pump. You have a chicken coop, some sustainable. Then you're just going into like crazy off the grid living, where you're like a hobbit house into the side of a hill, where the dirt keeps it cool. I watch these stupid videos all the time of these guys going
It's
off
kind
the
of
grid,
intriguing, though.
van life and all that kind of. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. That's why I thought I'd ask.
yeah, yeah, and I know lots of people have asked me that too, like um, about like whether if even if our house is like off the grid or they want to build a net zero house to be off the grid. And I mean, you can do that. I mean, if you have like you said, if you have battery storage and stuff, but um, I think there's a lot of value to being on the grid too. The sun's not shining all the time, so I'm good with the grid. I'm good with being on the grid, because it does
Yeah.
come in handy.
Can
Yeah.
you like? Is there an opportunity to put money back into the grid? Like, does that happen too? Like producing more than you're using? I guess that would be not net zero.
Yeah.
It'd be net plus. I don't know.
Well, we are, but like during the day, lots of times if we're not home, like we're sending power back to the grid, right?
And do you get paid
We're
for that,
selling it.
or? Oh,
Yeah,
oh, that's sweet.
yeah. And then at night, if we're running stuff, then we're using from the grid. So it's kind of a
balance.
give take. We don't the the fact is that we don't when we sell it back, we don't we're selling it back at a bit of a discount, right? So
Yeah.
that's the downside, but it still works out pretty good.
That's cool.
So with the industry and the home building that you're a part of, for somebody looking to get started into home building or carpentry, what some advice you have for somebody interested in getting into this trade or industry?
I think, I mean, kind of from my story is like, just if there's something that interests you even a little bit, like just, get your hands dirty and try it out, right? Like, for me, like I thought it was the last thing I'd want to do. And then, I just got out there and gave it a try and got my hands dirty and, realized I loved it. So, yeah, I think not being afraid to try new things, right? And the first thing you try might not be, your bag, but yeah, just get your hands dirty and see where it takes you.
Have some fun.
Oh yeah, have some fun.
Yeah, yeah. And what else? I think playing to your strengths. I mean, even thinking about how like I had people in my life telling me that I was good at these things or they were kind of natural to me, but I was unable to really see it, right? So I think playing to your strengths and also like getting feedback from the people around you, right? Like and listening to the people around you and if they tell you that you might be good at something, then maybe just roll with it and see what happens. So I guess that open mind of just really being open to different possibilities. I think one lesson I've learned is that it never looks the exact way you think it's going to look, or it never turns out exactly how you think, but it usually turns out pretty good. So what else? Advice. I think one thing that's always served me is always being a student, right? And always learning. And I think that's something that drives me, but it's also served me as well. So I think, yeah, I think what really motivates a lot of people is the, the always learning, right? I think sometimes we get stuck in one thing, and maybe we become disinterested with it because we're not taking it to the next level, and we're not continuing to learn. So that's something that's always worked for me. So that would be some of my advice anyway.
That's awesome. I think, yeah, like I think you get stagnant if you you think there's nothing else out there and you're just set in your ways, and kind of lifelong learner approach, right? Where you're always kind of learning new skill sets or theories, or like net zero homes, right? There's probably courses, different trainings, always kind of staying on top and constantly. I think that fuels a lot of people. And I think that's a great advice for our listeners.
Yeah, and I think like our industry is changing so much, and I don't know if that's in every industry, but it's like you need to be like educating yourself every day, because the world is changing so quickly. Like if you're not staying up to speed and learning new things, like you'll be left in the dust in a hurry.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So with that advice, now let's get to the technical side. Skill sets. What skill sets are important in framing and or running a home building business, but maybe more the technical side of the actual getting your hands dirty and building?
Skill sets, the one that always jumps out at me first is problem solving. So, and I don't know if
great
it's
one.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if that's like, maybe it's a hard one to learn, or I mean, that's maybe even a message to like parents. So, I try to like be that way with my kids, like to let them solve problems. Because it's a hard one to measure, right? Like, how do you measure how good of a problem solver you are? But it's extremely important, and because there's so many obstacles you face in like probably any industry, that you need to have that ability to figure it out and problem solve it on the fly, right? And not always on your own. I feel like I've learned that like I there's some things I can't figure out. Like building his net zero home was that exactly as well. Like you can't be an expert at everything. So, some of the problem solving is finding people that are experts in this area, finding those resources that can help you solve this problem. And I think it's common that we like to find all the answers ourselves. I don't need any help. I can figure this out on my own. But it's like,
yeah, big ego, hey?
Big ego, right? You gotta leave your ego at the door some days.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's important. Anything else? Any other skill sets?
Skill sets.
Even like basics, how to run something,
how to read a tape measure.
How to read a tape measure.
That's come up a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's, if you want to take it down from basics, yeah, definitely. Yeah, learning how to read a tape measure is a pretty big one, I would say. Yeah. Maybe like learning how to read plans too and stuff, right? Like I've noticed that's something I've always been pretty natural at, and I don't know if it's just being around it growing up, but like, learning how to like read instructions and plans, and that's even with our kids, it starts at like helping them build Lego and stuff, right? It's like,
yeah,
this is the step-by-step instructions of how to build this. It might seem really intimidating when you look at the picture, but when you break it down into small steps, like it's doable. So I think that's a skill in itself as well.
That's cool.
Well, and house plans are a whole nother, like, quite intricate, right? You've got your foundation plan, your site plan. There's so many. When I was in school doing like a plan for a coffee table or something, it's quite basic, but then you get into house and you've got all your codes and your mechanical, like there's so many different drawings. And I've looked at a few, even our house plan that we got with the house we bought. It's kind of intimidating if you're not around them or fully understand, like, yeah, if you don't know how to read those, there's some stuff that can go sideways pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that's changed a lot over the last few years too. And so that's something that the last year and a half here I've been doing a lot of is drafting and design. So that's kind of been my world lately. And yeah, it is changing a lot too, right? Like those plans are more and more detailed every day, it feels like, because there's more codes and there's, more regulations. So it's just inevitable.
Do you like that design phase compared to like building, working with the customer, the design phase? Is there one that stands out, or do you like the whole process of a build?
I like it all, but the design part of it has always been probably one of my favorites. So yeah, I do like creating and designing. I do remember when we were building houses, like that was probably my favorite part of it was, sitting down with the customers and designing the home and, configuring it to kind of fit what they want. And, you can play around with the look and the roof lines and, I've always liked that. So.
Are you more of like
And
hands-on pencil and paper, old school drafting table, or are you digital CAD? Like what's your preference?
well, yeah, it's all CAD now, but
Yeah.
I've done some hand drawings and stuff as well. I know my dad, that's how he did it. He was old school.
I
Everything
remember
was drawn by
always
hand.
seeing his draft table. I'll never forget that draft table and the big square rulers everywhere and pencils. I was like, what is that? But yeah, that's before computers.
I like that too. Like I was pretty artsy growing up, so I always like, drawing out and drafting and, working with pencils. I always like that. It's not quite as accurate and as efficient anymore though, for the houses we do, it would take forever, and changes would take forever as well too when you're drawing it all by hand. So
yeah, exactly. So get staying into that line of thought as far as tools and working with, the practical things. If someone's wanting to start out in construction or in the trade, top 3 starting out tools. What do you think?
top 3 starting out tools.
What do they need in their belt? Or maybe they just need a belt. Maybe that's one of them. I don't know.
Like actual literal tools?
Actual literal tools.
Well, you need a good tape measure, not one of the like IKEA tape measures. You want like a good Stanley Fat Max, something like that.
Okay.
Good old Fat Max.
I've been called worse.
a good tool pouch goes a long ways. Yeah. And some steel toe boots and a good hammer.
A good hammer. Gotta have a hammer. Hey?
Hammer.
Well, Joel, I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day, busy schedule to come on the show and share your wisdom, to share your experiences. I'm so proud to say that, I've known you for a long time, and I'm so proud to see the person you've become and the way that you think. It's really cool, and it's not like cliche, and it's not, I don't know, it's just really cool to see, and it just means a lot that you came on the show. And is there anything that you want to share with our listeners? Anything you want to promote? Where can they find you on social media? Where, what's your website? How can they get in touch with you to build them a home?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I was excited to come on here and chat with you guys. But yeah, I don't really have anything to promote, to be honest. My only thing I want to promote is just encouraging people to kind of follow, speaking of cliche, follow your heart, or just to kind of like follow things that interest them and find ways to, innovate and, make things better for our kids and for our future generations. Like, I think it's just, it's important to see the big picture and find ways that we can improve upon things. And if you're just wanting to get into the industry, I think it's just, I don't know, I always said this before, but just, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and dive into whatever it is that interests you, and don't be afraid to try new things.
Awesome. And if you want to find out more about Joel and Bosch Homes, head on over to buildwithbosch.ca. Thank you so much, Joel. Once again, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Hoff.
Thanks, Rosie.
And for all the links and everything to Joel and everything that we have going on, just check out the show notes. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for listening.